Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi-Brown. Let's just go live on Instagram. There we go. And it is so good to be here again today for an episode of Candid Conversations. This is my favorite time of the week because I get to talk with phenomenal humans who are doing phenomenal things and changing lives of children, of their parents. And you know what? This is really what we're about, right? We want to just educate you, empower you to make the best decisions for your family. And so, for those who do not know me, my name is Dr. Funke Afolabi-Brown. I am the founder of Restful Sleep MD and the Restful Sleep Place. And we do one thing, and that's one thing only. We help individuals, including children and their families, change their relationship with sleep so that they can thrive and live their fullest potential. I am excited to have my friend. I could call her my friend now. It is amazing. She is phenomenal. And you'll see in a moment why I'm saying so. This is Erica Desper. She is incredible, helps us figure out how to be confident parents. So, Erica, it is so good to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So first and foremost, I'm a mom. I have a teenage son, just the one. And my own parenting journey has, of course, had its ups and downs, which has led me to various aspects of my career journey. And as you mentioned, I spend my days and usually evenings and sometimes weekends helping families sleep is one of the things that we do, but we don't just do one thing. We kind of have lots of hats that we wear. So we're also helping with general behavioral challenges, specifically with picky eating, potty training, getting started, or troubleshooting if we've already started. And we recently added transition support for kiddos that have learning differences and are needing to plan for or move from, high school to whatever comes next, employment, post-secondary education. Basically anything I need to learn about, I decide to offer it to families so that they don't have to do all the legwork or reinvent the wheel.
So you have been there, you've done that, you have quite a number of t-shirts and you're like, okay, you guys,
Yes.
I have paved the way.
Right. And not that I'm the only one, but I have this, audience. So I'm like, hey, whatever I learn about, you guys are going to learn about too.
I love that so much. So tell me what really brought this about? Because I mean, with following you and we collaborate in so many places and we're in
I know. I can't believe we didn't even know each other not that long ago.
in Pennsylvania, like you're literally my neighbor. And it was funny because the way this all happened was, folks, people were like, do you know Erica Desper? Do you know? It was like 5 different individuals, like 2 different communities. I'm like, okay, she's somebody I need to know.
Right? Who is this chick?
But really tell us a little bit about what brought you here. What made you really start confident parenting? What made you start this work?
So we'll try to keep it concise since we have a limited time here, but it really just was my own journey. Cliche, I kind of fell into it through my own struggles. So I all my life wanted to be a mom. Everyone was like, you're going to be great with kids. You're made for it. I was a good bit older than my siblings, so I kind of mommed them. And I was like, all right, I really want this. It's going to be awesome. I know all the things and it's going to be so much easier for me than it is for other people. I didn't fool myself that it would be easy. There wouldn't be challenges, but I did think maybe I would have an easier experience just because I knew what hard things were coming. I thought, I thought I did. And then the universe went, ha, ha, ha. Hold this. We need to show her. So I knew I was going to work with parents in some capacity, but I hadn't figured it all out yet. I was teaching some developmental play classes and leading parent discussions. And then my son arrived. The pregnancy was a little challenging. The birth was a little challenging. Breastfeeding was incredibly challenging and painful. For something that's, normal, natural, has been done for forever. It sure doesn't feel like it sometimes. That I kind of all expected. But the sleep piece, I was already sleep deprived when he arrived because the pregnancy kept me awake. And this kid he was very, I thought, just high need. When I looked and Googled and read, I was like, well, he's just a high need kid. He always wants to be held or worn. He always wants to be on the breast. He acts like he's starving, even if it's only been 2 hours. We struggle with oversupply and him clamping down. It's just really messy. I went back to work at 6 weeks.
Wow.
So we muddled through and I thought I could handle it. looking back, I was clearly suffering from postpartum depression and anxiety, but no one asked, or they didn't ask the right questions, or maybe I just didn't open up. I can't quite remember because I'm sleep deprived. He didn't sleep for about a year, and I was really waiting. I was very crunchy, or whatever word we want to use. I was trying to do it right. We were bed sharing. We were nursing on cue, on demand, whatever you want to call it. I was doing all the things I thought would make him a content baby. And there's so much crying and very little sleeping. And then at some point he was crying and I was crying. We were all crying. And just giving him the boob or pulling him into my bed didn't work or didn't work as well. And it was not only not getting better, it was actually getting worse as he got older. And Dr. Sears had promised me, not personally, but in his literature, that if I just gave him what he wanted around a year, he would just naturally, blessedly be like, I don't need to eat overnight anymore, right? I'm one. Well, that was not what my kid doubled down and was like, okay, now I need it every 45 minutes. And it's not going to put me back to sleep anymore. I'll stay awake for 2 hours. And then by the time you start to fall back to sleep, guess what? It's been 45 minutes and I'll pop awake again. So I really just reached a point where I physically couldn't function. I didn't feel safe holding him in the middle of the night. I felt like I was going to drop him. Long story not short, we did solve that. He did become a good sleeper. The solution wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted to do a warm, fuzzy approach. Lo and behold, he needed me to just let him figure it out and get out of his way. And that was really what inspired me to help other families with sleep. Because when I called my pediatrician at 4 months, she said, you have to let him cry it out. So I hung up that call more upset than when I called her because I knew I couldn't do that at least at that moment, at that age. So I felt stuck between what I could no longer sustain physically, emotionally, mentally, and something I couldn't do. And there was no one to let me know that there's options in between. So the way I saw it was, I'm going to help the families find the in-between options, help them start where they're comfortable and know that there is some solution out there that will be doable for them. And that was how I started with the sleep, and the rest just kind of followed as I saw what families needed.
Oh gosh, can I just tell you how beautiful that is? It's incredible.
It was long, so I'm glad you think it's beautiful.
It is, because you think about it, there's a certain agenda, there's a way in our minds that we want that outcome, right? We all want that outcome. We want our babies to be healthy. We want our babies to sleep well, to be well fed, to wake up smiling. We will also want to have, life, right? But the thoughts that there only has to be one way, like you only can do it this way, is even more traumatizing. And the fact that you hung up when they said, well, it's only this way or nothing, it makes sense, because what if that doesn't align with your values?
And it didn't.
And it didn't. So,
and you know what? He probably would have been okay, because it did end up being what I needed to do. He was much older by the time I did it. I don't know if I would have been okay. And that's important too. We don't want to just reach the goal. We want to be okay with how we got there.
No, I love that. And I think that's just, again, a quick note out there that, you teaching your child to sleep well is a life skill, right? It's a life skill. And at the end of the day, look at what has come out of that, Erica. Now you have a community that you help. You have people that are going through similar or even harder situations that you're able to pave the way for. So it is important for our mental health as parents. It is important for our kids, for them to grow, for them to thrive, to be their best selves. So teaching your child to sleep is not a cruel thing. It's not a selfish thing. It's actually the most generous thing you can do.
I agree. You're preaching to the choir here.
So I would say the other thing that really intrigues me with the work you do is the Confident Parenting Village. And also you have a special needs collective. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I started in, I believe it was 2011 when my son was a year old. And, first we had to fix him before I could be like, hey, let me help you. So we did that. And it was just me for a while. And, I could handle the families that trickled in, but word started to spread, like you said. And it got a little too busy for me. So I started bringing in a couple, let go of some of my control issues, brought in some team members, delegated a little bit, and that's been wonderful. So we can help more families. Then we added the potty training. So it was the three of us doing sleep and potty. And all along the way, I, met and networked with some amazing local professionals, mostly women and moms, that are doing sort of the solopreneur thing, physical therapists, occupational therapists, maternal mental health providers, baby proofers, all these wonderful things that the parents I'm working with are also going to need. And so I had this vision at one point, 2018, late 2018, early 2019. And I reached out to some of them and said, look, when I'm out there promoting myself and I'm supporting these families, I can let them know about you too. Instead of just individually sending families to you, what if I highlight you and kind of, I promote all of us together as sort of that village that is missing these days. And it's gone really well. So September 2019, I revamped the website so that you can learn about our core services, but you can also learn about and be directed to the websites of all of our partners for all those other things. Because if you get your sleep situated, that's when you look around and go, oh my gosh, I have mountains of laundry that I'm never going to be able to get through. Or, I haven't made a home cooked meal in forever because it wasn't safe. I was so tired. So even things like household help, I've tried to sort of, gather together. So that model has been working really well for both the families and the providers since 2019. And then I found out I was mom to a special needs kid, which it took us so long to understand what was going on and get our diagnoses and our supports in place. So it was just last year at age 13 that our son got his autism diagnosis, ADHD, anxiety, a couple of learning differences. It's been a prolonged, agonizing struggle. And I know that that's not unique to us. So that helped me see a whole new community of need. And I said, well, again, I know all these great providers that help with anxiety and executive function and dyslexia and all of that. So I could repeat that model, but instead of it being, national and all that, it could be hyper local, just providers here for the local community and families that are navigating that journey, especially advocates, because there's so much to know with the education laws. And the schools know it all and the parents don't. And if you don't know what to ask for, you'll never get it, and neither will your kiddo. So the advocate can be the person that says, why aren't they providing your child with this? Why haven't they offered that? And I wish I had learned that much earlier, because our journey, it probably would have been the same, but it may have been shorter and therefore less agonizing. And we wouldn't have lost, critical years where he could have been getting help.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that like for you, just walking through all of that and then coming to finally almost like, okay, so now the pieces are coming together?
I mean, if I had to put it into one word, I would say brutal. It was brutal along the way. It was also around COVID was happening at the same time. There was so much stress, so much pressure. We brought his schooling home because we weren't sure what was going on, and he was having total sensory overload in the, the brick and mortar environment. But online school has also proven to be a terrible fit. It's very hard to find the right fit when you don't have a clear picture of who you're trying to fit the environment to. So we needed that picture first. So it's been frustrating, and at times it has felt, unfair. I've learned definitely to be a squeaky wheel and not worry if I irritate people and, call them too often, email them too often. It was really a journey of growth and learning to advocate for my child, learning to parent the child that I have, not maybe the one that I, envisioned when he was in my belly. I mean, both are amazing, but they don't always match each other. But I do, I wish it could have been, I wish any aspect of it could have come a little more easily. And I just think like I'm privileged. Like I'm fairly educated. We're middle class, if that's even, we're probably not, but lower middle class. We are not deprived. We get by. English is my first language. I don't have some of the barriers that other families have. So when you give me this, 80-page document that's full of legalese, if I can't understand it, what is a mom who English is not her first language, or she has her own, intellectual disabilities or learning differences or whatever? I just can't imagine how many people are struggling out there. And of course, it's the kids that suffer.
Yeah. So, wow, that's so I think, a couple of things you said. One, of course, it was brutal. Two,
For being candid.
yeah, and then two also, you think about it like even as an educated person, right? As someone who had access to, means and maybe resources too, but even putting those pieces together was
Yep.
complicated.
Yep.
And I think that might take us to the third question I have for you, which is knowing what you know now. If you look back for that woman, for that dad, for that whoever it is
Yes.
that's walking through this, like what are some of this, I would say maybe hacks, tips,
Yes.
tricks that you
Definitely.
would love to kind of pass on?
Yeah, I've learned so much along the way. Some of them are a little cliche, like, it
Mm,
takes a village, but
mm,
to say them is one thing, to live them
mm,
and be like, oh, that's what people mean when they say that.
mm,
That's different. So I think the first thing I learned early on was to stop. And this, everyone's different, but for me, parenting started to feel easier, more like what I envisioned when I realized that my experience wasn't going to be like other people's. I kept
mm,
waiting. People were like, oh, make it to, 6 weeks, it'll start to feel easier. Oh, no, now
mm,
you just have to make it to 3 months. It'll start to feel
mm.
easier. Oh, when they hit 6 months, it all calms down. And I was like, I think I see what you're doing. It's like when I was in the pool with my dad trying to teach me to swim, and he was like, just swim to my hands. And then he'd back up, right?
Oh,
You're like, wait, I was almost there.
yeah.
So then I just had like an aha moment, and I was like, wait a minute. I keep thinking like I just have to wait till it gets easier. What if I shift that and say, like, it isn't going to get easier or easy?
Mm,
It's going to get different. Like the things that felt hard
mm,
might ease up. They will
yeah.
be replaced with something else that feels hard, at
Mm,
least with the kind of kid that I have. And now that we have all these diagnoses, it makes more sense.
yeah.
Of course, it's why sleep was so challenging too. He's neurodivergent and
Mm,
has a lot of sensory issues. So definitely make peace with parenting, who you have, and just know that
mm,
nothing's forever. The bad stuff, even the good stuff's not forever. So I learned to
mm,
really appreciate when he was in an easier phase with anything,
mm,
and just be like, this is amazing. And I'm just gonna soak it up. Right. So whatever makes it easier for you, even if
mm,
that's not what other people would tell you, that was the first thing. The second thing, oh man, do I wish that I had accepted help when it was offered
mm,
and asked for it when it
mm,
wasn't. I was very superwoman, like, I can do this. I can do this by myself. I don't need anybody. He's too challenging to hand off to anyone. They'll have a
mm,
hard time. I really made it harder on myself than it needed to be. Same with the breastfeeding, and I'm a breastfeeding advocate. I have my certified lactation counseling certificate, but if I had been less all or nothing. I was a very
mm,
all or nothing mom, and there's so much in between things being like perfect or a
mm,
failure. there's a whole world in between there. We can find something in the middle. Um, and then definitely trust your gut is the third thing that I learned. I can't even count on one hand the times where I've said, I think something's really going on here with my kid. Like, first it was his asthma journey where the pediatrician kept saying, like, no, he's too young, we're not going to send him to a specialist, I can manage it. And then I finally found a way to get to a specialist, and they were like, why didn't you come sooner?
wow.
We could have spared you guys a lot of this. And I just wanted to strangle that doctor. I'm sure she thought she was doing what was right, but
Mhm,
I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know how
mhm,
to advocate for him yet. And then same with school. I kept saying from the very beginning, day one, I feel like he's really having a hard time. There's some kind of disconnect between the information that goes in and what comes back out. But everyone kind of, teachers, staff,
mhm,
even my own partner kind of was like, I think he's just giving us a hard time. Like, he's either just being difficult or,
mm,
strong willed or whatever. And that is also true.
mhm,
But I could see the distinction of those moments where he just really didn't get the concept or whatever was going on. But I listened to everyone and I
mhm.
trusted them, and ultimately I was right. He has 7 diagnoses
Wow.
that he was able to mask to everyone else
Mhm,
until 13.
mm,
So I feel all the things about that. I feel guilty. I have
mm,
regrets. I feel angry.
mm,
I feel sad, and anything you could feel. But really, all I can do with that, well, what I can't do is go back and do it differently.
mhm.
I don't get another shot, not with him, and
Yeah.
I'm not having any more. I had my journey. I did the best I could, as we all do. We're doing the best we can with what we know, the resources that we have. I've gone on my own therapy journey to learn to use my voice and trust my gut, and not make myself, small or quiet to make other people comfortable, which is, of course, what I was doing. And this journey with him really helped me with that, because it wasn't about me. It was about him, and I could speak up, more easily. But definitely trust your gut, even if it's only your gut that is pinging. And finally, be the squeaky wheel. There's this many, let's say it's an academic issue, for example, there's this many resources and this many kids who need them. And the quiet person, quiet family is not going to get those resources. And you don't get what you don't fight for, unfortunately. And I know there's a few people that have a much smoother, everything just aligned and they have an easy experience, and that's great. But I just want to normalize how hard we sometimes have to fight to get what our kids need.
Okay, so I'm going to recap those 4 because I just want, in case anybody's zoned out, you got to listen to this again. 1 is make peace with parenting the kid you have. Oh, moms out there, y'all got to take this one and run with it. Yeah. Because that comparitis, why is my child not XYZ, right? And then, your neighbor, your whatever, telling you all these incredible things, and you're just like, wait, what's going on? Right. And we struggle, and then we try to now change them to fit in a mold, which then becomes extremely uncomfortable for them. So I love that so much. This is the gift you have been given. Embrace, because within that child is just beauty and light and radiance. And so you're trying to change them. It dims that light. So
and it dims your journey, or throws a blanket over it, or whatever analogy you want to use.
Yeah, or makes it even longer, like makes things even more complex, because you're now like, well, why isn't he doing XYZ? Well, maybe because he had a whole different path, right? So that's powerful. And then the second one was, my favorite. Wait, I don't know. We'll see. They're all my favorite.
I know.
For help.
Yes.
Accept helps. It's 2. It's not just ask.
Yes.
It's to ask. When you ask, because sometimes as women, y'all, I know, I've been there.
Yep.
Sometimes you ask, but it's just lip service. You just want to check the box. Yeah, well, I asked for help. Nobody wanted to help me, because we don't accept that help. Yep. So ask for help, accept help. I love that.
And don't micromanage your help. If you ask your husband to wipe down the toilet, just let him do it his way. Don't go behind him, because then the next time you ask, he's not going to want to do it. just let it be.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect. At least
it doesn't. There's like perfect, there's so much in the middle.
So good. And then trust your gut, because it has been given to you for a reason.
And I think, I was a first-time mom. Now, granted, I was very experienced with children and parenting, but it was my first time doing it with a child who came from out of my body. A lot of parents think like, but I'm not an expert on babies. I'm not an expert on children. But you're the expert on your child, simply because some of that comes with just birthing them, if that's how you get them, or just the experience of bringing them into your family, but also with just, you spend the most, you're with them 24/7. So no one else can be as much of an expert. So you don't have to be an expert on children in general to be an expert on your child.
And I think that really resonates so well with me, because even for myself as a pediatrician, sleep specialist, pulmonologist, like I knew all things lungs, kids, breathing, sleep, and everything in between. But I had a kid that struggled, and we struggled, right? Even in spite of all of that. So
I honestly feel like the universe does that to us on purpose, so that we can always relate to the families that we're working with. So the universe doesn't want us to get too cocky.
Yeah. So for that mom out there, you may not have degrees, like those on a thermometer and alphabets after your name, but you are your child's specialist, really. Like,
exactly.
Love that. Trust you God. And then finally, be the squeaky wheel.
Yep. And I don't want anyone to hear this and think like, oh, she's got it all figured out now. It's still a work in progress. And anytime I'm doubting myself or having trouble speaking up, I think about this journey and I'm like, no, we're not going to go through that again. And
Absolutely.
really all I can do with all those feelings that I referenced earlier is channel it into something that feels, I want all that to be for a reason, right? Like,
Mm.
why did that happen? We didn't
Mm.
have to suffer that way. So let's let that journey be beneficial to somebody else, so they can sort of learn from what I've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is like, it sounds cheesy, but it is very therapeutic.
Yeah, no, I think that is so true because you can't go back. There's no point. There's nothing to go back to. It's how do we
Yeah.
move forward? How do we channel that one by making sure that you become that squeaky wheel to advocate,
Yep.
and also by helping others because now, guess what? They're not going to go through years and years of all this confusion and second guessing
Yep.
themselves. They will be able to hit the ground running. I just
Yep.
that is so powerful.
Exactly.
So how do people find you? How do people work with you? I mean, like I told you,
Sure.
there's like a whole lot of questions churning in my mind.
I know we may have to do another one. So the easiest thing is to go to centerforconfidentparenting.org.
Mhm.
Because this has kind of evolved organically, I actually have 3 separate websites, but I've decided to house them all under that one. So if you start there, you'll land wherever you need to land, whether you're on the special needs journey, whether you have a typically developing kiddo. There's also a podcast now, and you can get to that where we talk about all these things I wish, I knew before. And I bring in experts, like yourself. So that's the easiest way. Of course, I get a lot of referrals. Word of mouth is our biggest. If you give a parent their sleep back, they will shout about you, as you know, from the rooftops and tell all their friends. And of course, as I was starting my business, we were all getting our smartphones and Facebook was becoming a brand new thing. And so that's where the parents are. They're in the groups and that's where they're talking about their challenges and their solutions. So that's been really, really amazing. But yes, centerforconfidentparenting.org.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And that podcast is incredible. It's just such
Oh,
a
thank
gem.
you.
So good.
Yes, I have no illusions that I'll become a famous podcaster. I don't even want to. I hate people looking at me and listening to me, but I know I have useful information and I'm connected to people that have useful information. So I'm a fan of podcasts myself, and I
Yeah.
figured, well, it's just one more platform where I'm really on a mission to reach as many families as possible with this information as early as possible so they can just be spared a little bit of, the struggle.
Absolutely, absolutely. This has been phenomenal. Any final words, Erica?
Oh man, I think I said all the important things. Just know there's a lot in between doing this perfectly and doing this tragically. Let's just all be happy with, finding something in the middle. If you learn something, instead of beating yourself up about it, know better, do better, or know different, do different, however you want to phrase that. And there's no way to parent perfectly. Like if you're aiming for perfect parenting, you're going to have a tough journey and you're not going to feel great about it, but there's so many ways to do it well. So let's, my suggestion would be to aim for that. Let's do it as well as we can in any given moment and let the whole all or nothing perfection thing go.
Let it go. Let it go. You heard her. Let's do
You heard
imperfect.
it here.
B minus is awesome.
Yes, right? That's how I clean my house now. I leave it better than it was when I started.
Exactly.
I used to aim for perfection and now I'm like, that's better.
Exactly. Better. I love
So
it.
start small. If you need to practice, pick something small and leave that just okay. And maybe it'll filter into the rest of your life.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Oh, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks
It's been
for
so fun
having me. I
talking with
always
you.
love it. We can do this anytime.
I'm telling you, I love it. I definitely will have to have you back because there's like part 3, 4, 5, and 6 I'm already
Yes,
thinking of.
absolutely.
All right, everyone. I hope you've all taken some nuggets, especially those 4 points. I think those are definitely going to be really, really something to go back to. And so really nice talking with you today. And until next time, I hope you rest well.